Welcome on into Stroke Limit Reached. I am your host, Nick, here with my co-host, Mike.
Yeah.
And this will be week 2 recap. And wow, Mike, was it an absolute chaotic week of college football? Upsets everywhere, near upsets everywhere. So,
Oh, yeah. A bunch of teams showed that they were pretenders or just fucking not real shit at all this week.
yeah, very interesting week. That being said, let's go ahead, Mike, and let's start on the Friday night game. And that's BYU SMU. I know me and you were just looking at it. They bench Preston Stone after 2 3-and-outs. They go with Kelvin Jennings. They end up losing the game 18-15. From all reports, I'm seeing that Rhett Lashley said that they benched Preston Stone to provide a spark because BYU's defense was playing very aggressive to give them an option on the ground with the legs of their quarterback. Don't know if that ended up working out well with 15 points of offense.
No, I mean, it still looked like they struggled to get a passing game. They completed, I think, just over 50% of their passes for like 150 total yards. I think it was like 4 yards average per attempt. Running game, I mean, they ran the ball very well, but their starting running back had 2 turnovers lost to the defense. So probably long escalated drives that just end up being all for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, they closed as a 12.5-point favorite, and they lose on the road or they lose at home by 3 points. Honestly, I need to go back and watch this film because the coaching decision to bench your starting quarterback after 2 drives where he got sacked twice, is it a decision-making thing? Was he having a bad practice week? Because week 0 game was good. Week 1, you blew out your opponent. So it's like, I don't understand. There's a lot of things you can do in scheme to negate pass rush and blitzing besides putting in a different quarterback that can run.
Yeah.
So we really need to go back and watch that. Definitely break down some film. And if we go back and watch that, we'll put something up on Twitter for you guys of us breaking down that situation because it's an interesting way. I mean, I'm sitting here watching this game on Friday night. I see him come off the field, and I know the announcers were like, oh, he must be hurt. So it's like everyone thought he was hurt, but now it's coming out that he was benched, which is just really weird, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a game I want to go back and look at because SMU has been very underwhelming so far for what we projected that they would be like. And I didn't watch any of this game because at the time I was watching the Eagles-Packers.
Yeah, this and the next Friday night game, let's touch on real quick before we go to Texas, Michigan. Just want to get a quick shout-out. Props to Duke, 2-0. 2-0, winning a game against Northwestern, which
was fucking sweaty. I know you went to bed for that one.
Yeah.
I was watching the very end.
It was a late game.
Fucking sweaty. 13-13 goes to overtime. They kicked the field goal to make it overtime. The wind was fucking gushing. They had to put it in by the fucking hair of their little tit. Goes to overtime. Duke scores off rip. Gets the field goal, makes it 20-13. Northwestern just pounds it down their throat, scores pretty quickly. Sorry, vice versa. Duke tied it up at 20. Duke comes back out, scores again pretty early, misses the 2-point conversion. Northwestern continuing just with an easy run game because they were dominating it at this point. It was like 3rd and 1, and they decided to run like quarterback power to the right. Like under center, quarterback power, run to the right. And the quarterback ends up backtracking like 7-8 yards and gets tackled for a loss. So forced to go for it on 4th down and just couldn't convert. And for me, I live bet. So I had Duke money line to begin with because they were the underdogs. So I'm like, fuck it, why not?
Which is surprising in my opinion.
Yeah, against underdog against Northwestern, I'm gonna take the fucking underdog.
Yeah, I mean Northwestern one of the worst teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
if not the worst.
I live bet the over under for 46.5. Duke scored when they missed that 2-point conversion, dude. I hit.
Yeah,
because they missed the 2-point conversion. I was fucking hyped.
Yeah, that's wild ending. Raking some money there, but yeah, props to Duke. Now let's get into the real shit here.
Yeah,
Texas, Michigan. This is exactly what I thought was going to happen, but in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, maybe Michigan bounces back. They have a tough defense. Ultimately, Texas just in the first half did whatever they want in the air. Michigan's secondary was relevant. Quinn Ewers was excellent, I think, in the pocket. He was awesome at moving up in the pocket, sliding around, extending a little bit of plays to find open receivers to let them get open. But this, in my opinion, if you're talking about Quinn Ewers be a good quarterback at the next level, this is a great game to watch. Never panicked when they're bringing pressure, found open receivers, steps up in the pocket. So, and in my opinion, Texas, after this game, they look like one of the best teams in the country. They deserve to be number 2.
For sure, because I was going to say, I don't think Michigan's defense was bad by any means.
No, I just think Texas had a great offensive scheme. The
offense was so bad, like, Texas was getting handed the ball at the 50 or better every single time because Michigan's offense couldn't fucking do shit for 90% of the game.
Yep. And, I mean, Texas, so you guys see the score of 31-12, they called the dogs off. Yep. I mean, after they came out and scored immediately in the third quarter and they had this 31 points, and at that time Wolverines had 6, they're like, oh, okay, well, they have no chance of winning because they can't score. They could have scored 50. Like, they were cooking offensively. In that, I mean, Quinn Ewers threw for 246 yards and 3 touchdowns, great passing rating. Wolverines are just a quarterback short. They don't really have a quarterback, Mike, to be able to sustain drives. They also don't do anything to help them offensively scheme. But, yeah, I mean, just a poor performance on the offensive side of the ball for the Wolverines. And this is kind of what I expected to see coming into the season after we saw what their coach did when he had to coach towards the end of the season versus teams like Penn State. Mm-hmm. Though the Longhorns, even though that they were, doing great in the passing game in the first half, they did what championship teams do, and that's establish the run in the second half to burn clock and get it over with. Jaden Blue had 22 yards. Quatravian had 30 yards. Jarrett Gibson had 36. Ryan Wingo had 1 carry for 55. So they were able to get some yardages. They really didn't run the ball hardly at all in the first half. I mean, just one of the best performances from Quinn Ewers I've seen in a big game. Just taking what they're giving him. I mean, it was like death by 1,000 cuts in the beginning. It was 4-yard pass here, 5-yard pass there. So,
yeah, I mean, they just took tempo of the game and took absolute all momentum early. Like, they kind of crushed the Wolverines, I think, almost before the second quarter even started. You can just feel the defeat.
The writing was on the wall for sure. But, yeah, I mean, great win by Texas. I know this is a game you had to worry. They, honestly, ever since Texas scored that first touchdown, I was like, it's over. They have 0 shot. So, props to them. Anything else, Mike, on Texas, Michigan? I mean, outlook real quick of Michigan. What do we think? I mean, if they don't get something offensively going, I don't know how they're going to win Big Ten games.
Yeah, they can't dominate the run like they did in the past. Their defense is still good enough to keep them in some games for a while, but if their offense can't produce any kind of points, their defense is going to give up. You can have the best defense in college football, like look at Iowa in the past, but if your offense can't produce against some of these better teams, you just don't have a chance.
Yeah, and this is 2 weeks in a row where Fresno State, a team that's usually prolific in the air, is able to find some stuff, and then you have Texas here that's able to also exploit some problems that Michigan has in the air. So I think Michigan defensively, they are great at stopping the run. They did it against Texas in the first half. They did it against they just slipped my name. Fresno State in the first game. But yeah, the secondary, which I thought was going to be one of the strengths of their team, a little bit of blown assignments, teams able to find the weaknesses in the zone. So they've got to clean that up going in, playing teams like Ohio State and even Penn State, which we've seen Penn State this season, whether you think Drew Aller or whatever is a good passer of the football, Penn State has shown that they're going to take deep shots this year.
Yeah, they're going to upgrade their passing.
So Michigan, if they're going to win those games, they have to figure something out in the secondary and stop blowing assignments.
I guess the next game after that would be Arkansas, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, what a game. I mean, what a game.
Complete back and forth.
Oklahoma State moving up to 13 kind of surprises me. I don't know why they're putting so much stock in Arkansas. Arkansas was on the road and did jump out to a pretty big lead.
Yeah, it was a 21-7 lead at half for Arkansas.
Yes. At one point, Arkansas was up 14-0. Everything – okay, let me start here. before I get into everything that went right for Arkansas did in the first half, props to Arkansas, okay? They established the run. They established the pass. But this is what scares me with Oklahoma State. You're playing Arkansas here, Mike. They're ranked number 13. Remember last year we watched UCF absolutely destroy Oklahoma State?
Ranked 13.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State got absolutely destroyed last year by UCF.
Yeah.
What scares me here is I'm watching this whole first half. And for folks out there that don't know, when a team has a great running quarterback like Arkansas does and a great running game, the one thing you can't do is run man coverage. Because when you run man coverage and you're tight to the line of scrimmage and they're running press man like they were, it was like a cover one lurk situation. All Arkansas was doing was the minute they're running off their receivers and all the DB's backs are to the play, they're handing it off, bouncing outside, getting fucking 15 yards carry, or their quarterback just escapes the pocket. Oh, no one's open. I'm running for 15 yards. It was honestly, I don't know what they were thinking going into the game because it was one of the worst game plans I've seen defensively. I don't know what they were expecting them to do. I don't know. It was very shocking to me. But the one thing I will give Oklahoma State props is I believe Arkansas scored 21 points in the first half. They only scored 11 in the second. Yeah. So, and that some of that came in overtime. So really, in regulation, I think they only scored what?
I have it right here. I think they
pull it up. 7, 6.
Arkansas scored 10 in the fourth quarter.
Okay, so they scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. How
they didn't score again in overtime?
How they get 1 point? Oh, it's a 21. Okay, I'm sorry, 21-31. So yeah, props to Oklahoma State. You made adjustments. They only scored 10 points. Oklahoma State makes some adjustments on offense and was able to get it. The one thing I'll say with Oklahoma State, Mike, and if you're an Oklahoma State fan, this is one thing that you have to really look at and be happy with, is last year when teams like the UCF game, I'm going to keep going back to that because you got absolutely destroyed. When teams shut down your running game, they were cooked offensively. There was nothing they could do. But this was a game that I think actually sets them up to be a more successful team going forward. The running game was absolutely abysmal, and I was shocked. Ollie Gordon could not get more than about a yard before getting hit every single time he ran the ball. Do you have his stats pulled up?
I do. 17 carries, 49 yards, 1 touchdown, longest run, 12 yards, 2.9 per carry.
Yeah, so the fact that they were able to produce 39 points, and the one thing that they did really well is throw the ball to the perimeter to try to wear down that Arkansas defense, but also they utilized Ollie Gordon a lot in the passing game. Look up his receiving stats.
Ollie Gordon receiving. So we only had 2 catches. It was 2 catches for 20 yards.
What about the other backs?
Both of them being 10 yards. Let's see who the other backs.
Because
Alan Bowman, or is that the QB?
That was Bowman's QB.
Brennan Presley and Ceci Vihali.
Did they have any catches?
Presley had 9 catches for 91 yards.
So the one thing that's what I'm trying to say, they were throwing the ball out of the backfield a lot on little swings and stuff like that, and it was very successful. I mean, you see 9 catches for 91 yards. Yeah. Right?
It was actually their leading receiver.
Yeah, so they were finding ways to score points, and that's what you have to do in games like this where you can't, if you're one-dimensional, which they couldn't run the ball, and you still score 39 points, you're finding something right. And I think that this game is going to set up Oklahoma State to be way more successful and way better than I thought. Problem is they cannot do what they did defensively in the first half with a dumb game plan, because against better teams coming here into Big 12 play, it's going to really hurt them. Now, if you're Arkansas, Bobby Petrino is single-handedly saving Sam Pittman's job. Arkansas's offense has been the best I've seen in years, Mike. Their quarterback is honestly really good. I'm very surprised. He's making a lot of good throws, right? He's not making a lot of dumb decisions. He's extending plays with his legs. Teams have got to find a way to keep him in the pocket.
And they were just killing it in the run.
Yeah, they were gashing them.
Their lead running back, 24 carries, 150 yards. Over 6 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. He had 1 bad fumble, but, I mean, in general, this is unheard of for Arkansas. 400 yards through the air on almost probably like 60% completion rating.
Yep.
Turned the ball over once, but once is manageable.
Yep.
Running the ball, quarterback had 60 yards, running back had 150, like I said. Able to spread it out insanely among all the receivers. Andrew Armstrong being the biggest one of them, though. 10 catches, 160 yards. Their offense was impressive. They took advantage of what Oklahoma State gave them, and a big part of it, like you said, was that man coverage, being able to be a threat as a mobile QB. A team doesn't have the D line to be able to contain and make the adjustment to stop that quarterback from leaving the pocket or stepping up. Take what they're given to you, and that's exactly what Arkansas did for the entire first half.
Yeah, I mean they couldn't stop Arkansas's run game at all. Yeah. But in the second half, what they're able to do is get Arkansas to have about one bad play to get them into a third and long situation, and that's how they were getting them off the field and holding them to only 10 points. Mm-hmm. So, I think teams are going to have to do that against Arkansas. And I mean, Arkansas, you're doing a lot better than I thought. If they can keep this up offensively, figure some things out defensively when it comes to in the air, especially their schedule. I mean, I thought Auburn was going to absolutely destroy them after this weekend. Who knows? They probably can win that game. So they look like the much better team. So their outlook, winning 3 games or 4 games that I thought, I mean, they could surprise some people if people overlook them, for sure. I mean, this is a prime example.
Got to continue to be competitive.
For sure. So that's going to be interesting to watch. I'm very excited to watch Arkansas moving forward and Oklahoma State to see if they can continue to do this, and especially if they can get the run game going. They're going to be a force to reckon with on offense, which is awesome to watch. Briefly talk about Penn State. To me, Mike, this is just one of those games of riding an emotional high after beating West Virginia on the road. You come in, you think, Bowling Green's just going to lay down and you're going to beat the shit out of them. When you look at the box score, Bowling Green scored 24 points in the first half, which is awful. Penn State's defense was just letting them do whatever they want. Pass, run, it did not matter. That being said, this is why I think they're still a championship caliber team to make the playoff, because they make second half adjustments on defense and they score 3 points. That's ultimately what won them the game. But on the flip side, it's like Penn State's offense was just kind of going through the motions, but in my opinion, what this is a team that is playing very bad, able to win a game, playing very bad. Where a team like Auburn, you see they're executing poorly, they don't have the talent to win. This is a team that's executing poorly, has the talent to win. But let me tell you, if Penn State would have lost this game somehow, they'd be in the same situation as Notre Dame. But again, a win is a win. Move on. I wouldn't look too much into this game. I really just think it's a game where it's like you're coming off the emotional high on the road week 1. You literally went through you went through all fall camp, all of spring thinking about this game, the West Virginia game that you were going to play. You dominate them, you beat them, and now you have this. So if you're a Penn State fan, a win's a win. Just move on. Stuff like this happens. At least you're not like Notre Dame and you actually lost the game. Yeah. So I would move on. Drew Aller still throwing the ball, deep shots, completing them. He's going to have a lot more passing yards this year than last year because they're taking these big play opportunities. Yeah. So it's just a thing to watch.
He also only had 20 attempts when they were behind for the majority of this game.
Yeah, it was
so that means they stayed true to the run.
The fourth quarter where you saw Nick Singleton bust that 45-yard carry, that was just like a matter of time. When you have running backs that good against a team that you are significantly better than, eventually the run game is going to come to life.
Yeah, both of them were eating too. The other dude, their backup running back, had over 100 yards.
Yeah, they definitely do running back by committee. Nick Singleton actually had, I think, less carries.
I'll have to go back to it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had less carries and was able to, just bounce that 45-yarder, and that's what ultimately got him over 100 yards.
Yeah, it was 14 and 13, so not a whole lot of difference, but both of them had over
big
7
running
yards
back
per carry and over 100 yards.
Yeah, big running back by committee team there, so that's a good thing. I mean, you got 2 backs you can run. Your backs are always going to be fresh. Let's talk about Georgia Tech, Syracuse. Syracuse offensively, we talked about this, Mike, in our preview for the season for ACC. I said Syracuse was one of my dark horses. I picked them to win 8 or 9 games. Yeah. And this right here, guys, proves to you why I think that is. The quarterback, like we said, what's his name, Mike? We were just talking about him? Kyle McCord. He comes from Ohio State, where, yes, it's Ohio State. We're putting him under a microscope. He has to win big games. All of a sudden, he's used to playing in that, against that talent, trying to make the playoff. You bring him to a Syracuse team that has little to no expectations, and my man is playing free, and he is lighting it up. I think he threw for 300 yards, right, Mike?
381 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Looks like a different person.
Perfect passer rating.
Looks like a different person. They're putting all of their faith into him to make these plays, which I really like. It starts to make you wonder, was he a little hamstrung, worried about just making mistakes at Ohio State? But, yeah, I think Syracuse is a team right now in the ACC you do not want to play. I mean, they're scoring a lot of points on offense. The one thing I will say is they almost blew it. They jumped out to a pretty big lead, just like the Arkansas game, except they were able to hold on towards the end.
Yeah, at halftime it was 21-14. Start of the fourth quarter it was
Pretty sure 31-14.
24-14. And then
I
don't know how the fourth quarter went.
Yeah, at one point they were up 31-14.
Syracuse scored 7, and the Yellow Jackets scored 14 to bring it up 28. So I think you're right. It was probably 31-14.
Yeah.
And then Georgia Tech scored 2 at the end to bring it in within 3 points. And
yeah, it got a little scary.
yeah, actually, I'm looking at the recap. Yeah, with 5 minutes left, Georgia Tech had a passing touchdown and then scored again with 2 minutes 45 left to bring it down by 3, and I don't think they touched the ball again.
Yeah, they were able to run the clock out, I would assume. But, yeah, they held on there. And, yeah, Syracuse, I mean, with the schedule that I think is very favorable, 9 wins is right into play.
Yeah.
Like I thought at the beginning of the season. This is a big win for them. I had this circled because I thought Georgia Tech was going to be a little better. I didn't think they'd be 2-0 going into this game, obviously. But, you know, props to Syracuse. You're 2-0. Moving on.
Absolutely dominated time of possession, by the way. 36 or 37 minutes pretty much compared to 23.
Mm-hmm. Let's go down to Kansas State Tulane. I want to briefly talk about this game.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot believe. Okay, I understand that Tulane has been one of the best group of 5 teams, you know, in the last couple of years. Their quarterback was absolutely lights out in the first half, Tulane's. I think he was 12 for 14 for like 250 yards, which was insane, right? That's damn near that's 90% or something like that for pass completion percentage. Kansas State's defense had no idea how to cover the pass. They're going to have to figure that out soon, but Kansas State was able to come back, win the game. Their quarterback, Will Johnson, took over. Avery Johnson took over, right? I combined Johnson and Will Howard because they're both on the same team.
I thought you were just talking about Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan.
No. I combined Will Howard that was there and Johnson that's now their quarterback. So my bad. Avery Johnson took over. When the passing game, he was struggling a little bit and they were losing. He was able to extend plays with his legs. I'm pretty sure he ended with probably a lot of rushing yards, didn't he?
8 carries, 40 yards for Avery Johnson.
And he got sacked sometimes. I know he busted a couple long runs. So they were able to sneak it out, but I don't know how you move Kansas State up in the rankings after this performance. Honestly, they deserve to lose. I mean, just so we're clear, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he got sacked 5 times.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they got to clean that shit up quickly coming in the next game. Kansas State, I'm pretty sure, took a kickback after Tulane scored immediately. I think Tulane went up 27-20, and then Kansas State took the kickoff back. Check me out on that.
I'm looking for it right now.
Mike's checking. He's checking. Who scored the touchdown?
So, not a kick, but there was a fumble that was returned for a 60-yard touchdown.
To make it 27-27?
That was the final touchdown of the game to win, 34-27.
What was the score before it to tie it up?
13-yard touchdown.
How many plays? How many plays was it?
It was 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
No, but does it tell you how many plays they took? Like the play-by-play?
Summary. I'd have to go deep in for a play-by-play.
Well, yeah, I mean that kind of talks about a little bit. I'll look it up real quick, Mike. But go ahead and talk about it. I mean, that just talks about how they barely snuck away with the win. I mean, they're scoop and score touchdown to seal the game. But I'm almost positive that's how they won. Was they took a kickoff back and a fucking scoop and score.
Yeah,
and it was like heartbreak. So I'll look that up real quick.
Both quarterbacks had great games. Darian Mensah for Tulane, he threw for about 350 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have the 1 interception. Rushing the ball, Darian Mensah, the QB, he's the one who fumbled the ball on one of their runs. Mekhi Hughes, their lead running back, had 20 carries for 128 yards. Like, all in all, Tulane looked good this game, and they've proved that, like you said, they're one of the better group of 5 teams in college football. So it's definitely a heartbreaker that they couldn't get the ending to try to beat a top-ranked team in Kansas State. And Kansas State trying to prove that they are a team that will contend for the Big 12. I mean, they've really, so far this season, have been struggling in my opinion.
No, you're right. It was the fumble return touchdown. That's what did it.
That's what you were thinking of?
Yep. So fumble return touchdown, and then they went punt, interception. And that was the end of the game. They got intercepted with 2 minutes and 59 seconds left. And, I mean, eventually you kind of saw that coming, but Tulane's quarterback made some throws where I was like, wow, who is this guy? Because he played really well. I think they're going to shock some teams, and they honestly could have won this game. But just a little sneak peek, Mike, before we move on to the next game. I'm talking about Tulane slicing and dicing them through the air. How do you not pick Arizona to win next week? Like, they've got to figure that shit out fast.
I mean, Arizona's been struggling too.
Yeah, but
that's the issue.
They've been struggling, but have you seen, McCollum or whatever? McMillan has had like 200 yards receiving a game.
He had like 280, I think. I don't know what he had last week.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm sure we'll scroll by it here. But
I mean, he's right now the number one wide receiver prospect going to the NFL.
Yeah, like, so I don't know how they're going to slow him down. Like, if they can't cover Tulane's receivers, that's just all I'm saying. No offense to Tulane receivers. I'm just sure that, a top 5 pick possibly, or top 10 pick.
Probably he's looking more like top 3.
Yeah, is going to absolutely exploit your DBs. So let's keep going down, Mike. Let's see, Memphis won 38-17. That sets up an interesting week 3 matchup that we'll talk about later in this week for Florida State. Can't believe Memphis is the dog by 7 points, but we'll get to that. Georgia dominates. Texas A&M dominates. So here's a bunch of nobodies. I want to talk about this real quick, guys, because we're degenerate gamblers on this channel. Miami is only like a 35-point dog or 35-point favorite, I think, against Ball State. It was 35.5. And I don't know about you, but I'm rolling by this Ball State game, and I see them winning by a touchdown to a FCS school.
Missouri State.
And they gave up 34 points.
That was Ball State's first game of the year, too. They had 2 bye weeks for week 0, week 1.
So how do you not take...
Game. And honestly, the spread was only Ball State -3.
Yeah,
we're not even favored to win this game.
Yeah, it's just an interesting Vegas thing, but I also think that we checked earlier because we were going to hammer Miami to cover the spread, and they locked it. So I think they're going to readjust.
I believe I did end up taking it again when they opened it.
While you look, let me get into this bullshit. Cal Auburn. It's time, boys. It's time. I'm not going to lie. I had little trust in Peyton Thorne coming into the season, but you know what? I thought, hey, with all this receiver talent, we just need a guy to deliver the ball. And I thought, after watching week 1, and I tried not to overreact, that, hey, the receivers are getting wide open, so he'll be able to make easy decisions. I thought that would carry over into this game. And after watching the film breakdown, Mike, we still had wide receivers wide open all over the field.
Okay, you're talking about Auburn.
Yes. And I know, personally, the decision's got to be made right now. Okay? Hugh Freeze, I listened to his press conference today, Mike. We're recording this on Monday. In his press conference, you knew they were going to come at him if he was going to bench him. And I actually really respected his answer. His answer basically was, it's very hard for him as a coach to bench a player when he looks really good in practice. But he followed that up with quoting a coach from the NFL. I can't remember his name, but it's a very legendary coach. He said at some point the practice has to carry over to the game, and some players don't have that. Yeah. Him saying that in a press conference, now this is a guy that we talked about, I tell you, for the last year and a half, has done nothing but defend Peyton Thorne and blame the receivers. Now all of a sudden him saying that somehow it's got to transition from practice to the game is telling me that a change is near. He was also asked point blank, because that answer, someone asked him point blank, could we see a decision made as early as Saturday? And he said, well, I don't want to lie to you guys, but I'm going to tell you it's possible. He goes, if Hank Brown has a better practice, then yes, it's possible. But he also said that he wants to see them both on film in the game, which tells me that they're probably going to share some reps out this game. You can afford to do that, I think, against New Mexico. And at that point, Hank Brown's got to step up to the plate. You have to beat this kid out. Your career as an Auburn Tiger is on the line, in my opinion, because you're a sophomore, okay? I think you honestly could have got redshirt last year. He could be a redshirt freshman. I don't know if he eligible for the redshirt last year. I don't know how many games he got in garbage time. But that being said, Mike's looking it up. Your time is now. Because if Auburn does sign a big quarterback, which is very potential, they have a potential flip coming from Deuce Knight, who has a lot of talent. If you can't beat out Peyton Thorne, there's no way the Auburn fan base is going to keep Deuce Knight off the field.
He's a redshirt freshman. His
Yep.
only action was in the bowl game last year.
Yeah, and he played great. So I think the time is now. That being said, though, very disappointed in Auburn's running backs. Okay, I went back and watched the film. Now I'm going to give props real quick. After I say this, I'll give props to the coaching staff. But when I went back and I watched film, Mike, there was a lot. Probably 3 or 4 plays, which is a lot, guys. 3 or 4 plays of lackadaisical play is a lot for a college athlete. But specifically, there was 3 or 4 plays where Jarquez Hunter out of the backfield was jogging on like swing routes or Texas routes, where those 3 or 4 plays, it wasn't Peyton Thorne's fault. It was Jarquez Hunter. Because they were running a little concept, Mike, where it was like a Texas route with a hook, like a curl. So when the running back went out and he would cut in,
Back in, he stops.
it makes the backer follow him. All of a sudden the curl route's open because they're in man coverage.
Yeah.
But what he was doing by jogging is by the time the quarterback was ready to throw the fucking curl,
The linebacker's already on him.
he
and
was-
it's too late.
no. By the time he's ready to throw the curl, Jarquez Hunter hasn't even broken inside for his Texas route. So now the linebacker's covering 2 guys standing still,
Yeah.
which is insane. And the linebacker doesn't even know he's covering the curl because they're in man, but now he's just in the way of the lane to throw the ball. That happened 3 or 4 times in the first half, and then I did notice something. Every time Auburn was in a third down passing situation, he never came back out on the field.
Who, Jarquez?
Yes, which told me that the offense, that someone saw that, whether it was in the booth or not. So props to them for catching that, but they got to clean that shit up. Also, there was a couple freshman things from the receivers I want to catch up. There was a couple plays where Cam Coleman on some RPOs got ran a little faster out of the break, but he was still open, still had time to hit him. I'm just nitpicking. I'm trying to nitpick other things because I don't want to sit here and just harp on how shitty Peyton Thorne is, but he is shitty. He's got to go. This is 4 years, Mike. You know what you got at quarterback. You didn't go in the portal. You sat here in this press conference on Monday and said you chose to build from the ground up with young guys and that the young guys have high motors. And then he literally called out the old players. He goes, our seniors and juniors need to step up. Our young guys have high motors and they want to win, which tells me that you're fixing to see a shit pile of changes and he might just start playing some freshmen and sophomores. Yeah. And I think it starts at quarterback this Saturday.
Yeah, and I know that was something me and you debated about on the summer. It was, is Peyton Thorne, is he going to make the next step? Now that he has the receivers, can he continue to
well, now he has no excuses.
Saw in Michigan State, is he able to? And we were going back and forth, is it the receivers? Is it the O-line? Is it his panic mode that he goes into? Was it warranted? And, now we see, it's not warranted. He goes into panic mode at the first sight of pressure, ducks his eyes down, and, no longer searches the field.
Yep.
Another crazy, your leading receiver was Jarquez Hunter. He had the most catches.
Yeah, the wild thing was Cam Coleman is extremely explosive at 2 catches. Keanu Lambert-Smith is extremely explosive at 2 catches. Yeah. But that also goes back to them being wide open and you not throwing them the fucking ball. Mm-hmm. And I know that frustrates them, and I really think that you would see a new Auburn if you played a new quarterback because the receivers then again would be like, okay, someone's going to get me the ball. Yeah. So I do think you'll see shared reps for New Mexico, and I pray to God Hank Brown beats him out for Arkansas because if Peyton Thorne walks out on the field versus Arkansas, take the fucking money line if Arkansas is the underdog. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, you guys got Nevada next week, right?
No, we have New Mexico.
Or that's what I meant, sorry. New Mexico.
Yep, New Mexico,
yeah, so that'll be the perfect time then to figure out what you
play
have.
both
Are
quarterbacks
you
and
able
go.
To do, honestly, fuck playing Peyton Thorne. You
But
know what you're getting out of it.
They already said they're going. The problem is they said if he has another good practice, they want to see them because
I get that, but
then
when
they're
it comes
only
to game
just.
time. I don't care what Peyton Thorne does. He could go out and have a
I agree.
career game like he did week 1 and look perfect.
I agree, but I
don't
think
care. I want to see what Hank Brown does.
the thing is, though, I think New Mexico is a good enough opponent where he would, if he went out and played really well, that would be like a step forward. New Mexico kept it close with Arizona last week.
Yeah.
So I
But
think
my
that
thing is just Peyton Thorne's just proved to me. If I'm the coach, I can't trust him.
I agree, but I think when the way he was talking at his press conference, I think this is more of if Peyton Thorne has good practice, he'll play, and Hank Brown will share reps.
Yeah.
But if Hank Brown has a great practice, Peyton Thorne won't come on the field. I think it's more of that.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a Peyton
this
Thorne
week
thing.
Needs to be and evaluate what you have with Hank Brown.
I think
if
it's
Hank Brown comes out and performs well against I'm gonna fuck them New Mexico. I almost
Yep.
said Nevada again. New Mexico. Then he's your starter for until he proves he can't. You know what I mean?
I agree, and I think the other reason that he's tentative is he really likes Hank Brown's ability to throw the ball, and with him being a redshirt freshman,
He's still young.
he's
still
probably
learning the
worried that
system.
if he gets thrown out there and he has a bad season going
It's gonna
forward, that
Kinda
Auburn,
kill his confidence.
that no, by next season, Auburn's fans are going to be calling for a new quarterback.
Yeah.
But I think he's ready. Like, in my opinion, Mike, I don't know about you, I would rather have a redshirt freshman making redshirt freshman mistakes, but having
who's been-
but having the ability to throw the ball than a fucking senior making freshman mistakes.
Yeah.
I can't stand that. That being said, real quick, I want to shout out, great job, Cal. Robert Mendoza played amazing. That was one of the best quarterback performances in the first half I've ever seen, especially being on the road in a hostile
I
environment.
think he started 12 for 12. He was
He started
perfect.
12 for 12. He finished the half 12 for 13.
Yeah.
So it was insane. Great job. But then again, I also want to flip to Auburn's defense. It looked very, very ugly in the secondary in the first half. I also didn't know. I kept shitting on Keontae Scott, number 0 for Auburn. They did say this morning that he was playing at like 70%. But the problem is they're so thin at DB that him at 70%, they were having to rotate him because they were gassed.
Yeah.
And so with Auburn having sophomore and freshman DBs and being thin and not really having a lot of secondary to roll in to get them some breaths on these long drives, and they were able to come out and fix that and only give up 7 points from a guy who was lights out in the first half, props to them. Props to DJ Durkin, the defensive coordinator. This was the best defensive adjustments I'm going to tell you right now that I've seen as an Auburn fan in my lifetime. That used to kill us under previous coaches, not doing defensive adjustments. So awesome, great job adjusting. Auburn's defensive line, I think, went way underrated. We have a bunch of young guys. We have a freshman starter at the interior lineman position. We have Keandre Folk, who I just want to tell you right now, I'm an Auburn fan, but last year he played as a freshman, Mike. He started as a freshman. Mm-hmm. He was 6'7", 240. On the broadcast, they said my man is 6'7", 280 at defensive end. And let me tell you something, guys. Watching him, he don't look 280. He looks exactly like he did at 240. So for you to gain 40 pounds, stay the same speed, is fucking insane. Insane. He is huge. That guy is potential first-round draft pick for Auburn. He's a sophomore.
Yeah, in the game, he had 11 tackles, 6 solo, 2 sacks, 3 TFLs.
From a DN position with his hand on the ground, that's insane, guys. I mean, that's probably one of the best. I mean, at one point, Mike, in that second half, I was like, somebody on this D-line's got to take over so this quarterback can't start just picking us apart. It was him. He pressured the quarterback a lot. So, great job, Auburn's defensive line. Great job making adjustments. And let's move on, Mike, and I'll let you run with this because what a big shocker this was to me. I could not believe it.
Oh, my God. They fucked me out of so much money. Oh, Iowa versus Iowa State.
I took Iowa money line to jump. We saw Overdrive Boost on Hard Rock. Shout out, please sponsor us. For an Overdrive Boost of Iowa money line minus 110, and we're like, bro, that's free money. That's damn near even odds. That's free. I then doubled down because we thought Iowa was going to beat the shit out of this.
It looked like it.
And it did look like it. I doubled down the day before, took them for a parlay that I put a big profit boost on to try to win some money, and we're going watching the game, and it's like, all right, Iowa's offense isn't cooking. However, Iowa's defense, I don't think Iowa State had a first down in the first half. If they did, they had like one. Iowa State's offense was so fucking cooked. This looked like the easiest game, like easiest lock out there. So when it's 13-0 at halftime, and I'm just going through the fucking Hard Rock app, and I see that the live spread's 13.5 for Iowa, I'm like, oh, this Iowa State team is fucking cooked, dude. Free money. I was fucking wrong. Iowa only scored 6 points for the rest of the game. They ended up going for 2 and missed it. Iowa State proceeded to score 20 straight, I'm pretty sure. They ended up winning the game, and Iowa's offense was absolutely fucking cooked. Cade McNamara kind of looked like dog shit for really the entire game.
He did at Michigan, too.
Yeah, like I was tricked into thinking that he would be a competent passer with them after week 1. Dude went 13 for 29, less than 100 yards, 2 interceptions. comparatively, Cyclones quarterback Rocco Becht, 23 for 35, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Shocking. 272 yards to the air on Iowa.
Yeah. Going to the ground game, I mean, the Iowa's running back Caleb Johnson, he had 187 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was doing his thing. Iowa State couldn't really get a good run game going. Their starting guy had 17 carries for 58 yards, averaged like 3 yards per carry, which is solid, but he just couldn't really get a big groove going. They had one receiver, Jalen Knoll, 5 catches, 133 yards, 1 touchdown, with a 75-yard touchdown at some point in that second half. It was just frustrating to watch. It was how quickly Iowa State adjustments affected the game and how little Iowa was able to do anything on really either
To
side
adjust,
of the ball.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say with this is Iowa better figure it out quick, because this was a loss, in my opinion, they could not lose, because if they want to make the playoff, realistically, they need to be 10-2 to get in as a Big Ten team. And, now you have a loss.
The benefit to Iowa, though, is
Well, the benefit is
they
Iowa
really
State.
have a tough schedule.
But also the benefit is Iowa could still make the playoff by winning the conference if that's possible.
Yeah,
But
so I
Iowa
think their
State's
only
not a
tough-
conference opponent, so
They only have one tough conference opponent. It's either like, I can't remember if it's Michigan, Penn State, or Ohio State. I think it's Ohio State. I'm pretty sure they play Ohio State because the spread's like 22 in Ohio State's favor. That might be next week.
So they have Illinois State, Iowa State. They play Troy next. They have at Minnesota, at Ohio State.
Okay, it is Ohio State.
Versus Washington, at Michigan State, versus Northwestern, versus Wisconsin, at UCLA, at Maryland, versus Nebraska.
Yeah, so
Nebraska and Ohio
are gonna be
State.
those 2 big games at the highlight for them.
And now they're going to have to win one of those.
Yeah.
They can't lose both.
No.
So originally I thought they could make the playoff losing both those games, but now they can't. Obviously they'd be 9-3, so just makes it a little more tough sledding. But if you're an Iowa fan, don't panic. The season's not over. You honestly could still win the Big Ten if you upset a team like Ohio State.
The issue is that game showed us a lot of what we saw last year is good defense and just subpar offensive play. And we just need to see more. I don't know if the scheme wasn't working. I don't know if Iowa State's defense is just like that. But we need to see more out of Iowa's offense.
Let's go down to the absolute shocker in week 2. And that is a plus 1,957 underdog of Northern Illinois to beat at the time, number 7 ranked Notre Dame? 5 ranked Notre Dame?
Top 5 team in the country.
What the fuck happened here?
Honestly, I
14
don't know.
points of offense.
Notre Dame offense was in a fucking box. They could not do anything against Northern Illinois. Riley Leonard looked like a fucking bum. Their running backs looked like shit. They were physically in a fucking box, unable to do anything against these fucking Huskies.
Yeah, I mean, Riley Leonard went 20 for 32, which is kind of shocking because it's not bad, but how did he only throw for 163 yards and 2 picks? Were they throwing 2-yard routes? I don't understand.
When we turned on the game,
Just to put it in perspective, Mike, he threw 20 times for 163 yards. Ethan Hampton, the quarterback for the Huskies, threw 10 times for 198 yards. Yeah. Half the amount of attempts and, 40 more yards?
Yeah.
It's insane.
They were throwing a lot of short dump-offs. It seemed like the deep game wasn't working.
But they couldn't. I'm going to have to go back and watch it because obviously they couldn't get separation, if that's the case.
Yeah, Riley Leonard, he ended up getting sacked twice. I really just don't know what happened in this game outside of when we flipped it on. Notre Dame looked like they were a shell of themselves. It looked like they didn't want to win. Northern Illinois.
Do you think this puts them on the hot seat?
Possession.
You think this puts their coach on the hot seat?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
how many times has this coach came up short to being able to take Notre Dame to relevance? Every year, they're like how we used to call Penn State this. They would be knocking on outside the door, so close from getting in, and they would just drop every important game.
Yeah.
This isn't the important game. This is a game that you're supposed to blow out by 30.
You're a 28-point favorite.
Yeah, this is not a game that you should ever even be in contention with, and you lose. It's one thing if you came back and had a good second half, like we saw earlier with who was the other almost upset? We were talking about earlier.
Penn State.
Penn State, yeah. Penn State struggled against a Bowling Green, and they figured out in the second half, able to come back and win the game and steal it. You never came back. You just flat out got dominated for 4 quarters. And let this team kick a field goal to go up by 2. You drive, you get into field goal range, and you get blocked. They block your field goal for, I think, the second time this game, too, and win the game. They beat you on offense, they beat you on defense, they beat you on special teams. How do you let that happen as a top 5 team in the country, projected to go deep into the playoffs?
Let's go over to the next shocker of the weekend. That's South Carolina being a 9.5-point underdog and absolutely mopping the yard of Kentucky. And I just want to say this, Mike. I just want to say this. People were sitting here saying, watch out for Kentucky this year. They got Brock Vandergriff from Georgia. And I sat here and said, Brock Vandergriff blows dick. I literally sat here and watched this man, because my brother is a huge Georgia fan, play for the last 2 years coming in and getting snaps. He's fucking terrible. This game showed it. He went 3 for 10 for 30 yards. 3 for 10 for 30 yards. They even have another quarterback 3 for 7 for 14. They threw for a combined 44 yards passing. What the fuck did Kentucky do on offense? But this is exactly Kentucky every year. This is why I didn't know if Will Levis would be a good quarterback in the NFL. Because Kentucky, all they do is, if they have a great offensive line, a great running back, they hand the ball off every play. And yeah, it works when you have some of the best running backs in the country and some of the best offensive line in the country. But a year like this, where you don't really have that great of a running back, you have a subpar offensive line, this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. People, listen to me. People want to talk shit about Auburn. People want to talk shit about Florida. People want to talk shit about Florida State. This right here is bad. Kentucky might not win an SEC game with throwing the ball for 44 yards and getting their run game shut down and having 6 points. You can't convince me that Florida can't beat a team like this. You can't convince me that Vandy can't come in and beat the shit out of Kentucky the way they're playing. So, Kentucky, your coach has been your guy and leading you to 8, 9, 10, 11 win seasons. You might miss a bowl game. This is awful. And also, though, props to Lenora Sellers, goggles himself, 11 for 15, 159 yards. 2 touchdowns, had the 1 pick, but still a good passer rating.
I know he got taken out at some point in the game. I think he got hurt for a little bit.
Robbie Ashford came in for 1 drive and was able to just get them some first downs with his legs through 1 pass for 7 yards. But that being said, South Carolina finding a way to win, finding a way to get 31 points on the board. Props to them. I did not see this coming out of South Carolina. And I already went ahead and told Mike, you might think I'm crazy, but I put LSU on upset watch this week coming up. Just because South Carolina, for people that do not know, South Carolina, when they have hope, which after a win like this, you do, College game day is coming. It's a game against a ranked team, an LSU team that's significantly better than you. Stadium's going to be rocking. They're going to be playing that cock noise, sandstorm. It's going to be an awesome environment on Saturday, and I'm just calling it right now. I'm not saying they're going to win. We haven't done our predictions. That'll be later in the week, but absolutely an upset watch. But yeah, Mike, Kentucky, that was one of the most poor performances I've seen from a Kentucky football team under, is it Mark Stoops? Yeah, under Mark Stoops in recent history. That could be the worst performance I've seen from them. And the fact that I think Georgia is only a 24-point favorite and South Carolina just won 31-6, I don't know how you don't hammer that.
Yeah, Kentucky was able to make it competitive for the first half. As in, they didn't let South Carolina score a bunch on them. But they just never showed up in the game. You could see, it was just very one-sided for the most part. In the second half, South Carolina just ran away with it.
South Carolina also had a pick 6.
Yeah. So I'm saying it felt like we changed the channel, flipped back on, and South Carolina had a 14, 20-point lead.
Yeah, so props to them to bust this game open and win the way they do. Kentucky, I was trying to pull up their schedule. I think I'm going to do that real quick because I want to talk about it because – I'm serious.
I actually have it right here.
You do? List it
Yeah,
off.
we pull it up on our notes.
Because I'm a little curious, Mike. I don't know how they're going to do going forward after this performance. That was
All right,
bad.
so we just watched them play South Carolina. Next week, we were talking about it, UGA.
Fucking beat down.
After that, they got Ohio, then at Ole Miss.
The loss to Ole Miss. We'll give them the win to Ohio.
Yeah. Versus Vanderbilt.
I think
That's
they
a toss-up
lose.
at this point.
I think they
Vanderbilt,
lose.
how they
Where
can
is it
play,
at?
It's home for
Okay.
Kentucky.
Still, I think it's a loss.
Yeah, with how Vanderbilt's been playing, if they keep this riding high, like Vanderbilt's a scary team for some of these guys to play.
Yep.
At Florida.
I think you lose that. Like, I think people are looking at the Miami game like, wow, Florida's bad. But then again, I think people are discrediting how good Miami is. I mean, there's a difference
Again,
between.
I think it's going to be a factor of where each team's at this point.
I agree, but I also think that people are putting into perspective Florida losing like what 45-15, what was it 45-14?
17.
45-17 to Miami. 41-17. There's a big difference between losing 41-17 to Miami and losing 31-6 at home to South Carolina.
Yeah.
This is a team that we're talking about might not make a bowl game, that just beat your ass.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing here, I had this Kentucky team projected at 5 wins. I had their floor at 4.
Yeah, and I mean, they have Vandy on their schedule. They have Auburn on their schedule, which I literally said in my predictions that Auburn would beat Missouri in an upset win, which is not fucking happening now, and then slip up and lose to Kentucky. As much as I rag on Auburn, I don't know how I can say that Kentucky's going to win the game anymore. Like, I have to see them going forward in a couple
their
games.
Floor could still hit, but that would require them beating Vanderbilt because once we go through the rest of the schedule, you have home against Auburn, at Tennessee.
I think you could beat Auburn, you could beat Vandy, you could beat Ohio. Those are teams that you could beat.
After that, you got Murray State, so that's the other win I was giving them.
Yep.
For. At Texas, home against Louisville. And I don't see this team beating Louisville.
No, as much as I say that Louisville can't get over the hump with Kentucky, this is the year.
This
If
is
they
the year
if
they
they
do.
keep playing like this, they got to figure something out. But yeah, let's move on. That was awful.
After there, you had a bunch of teams that, like, it was just a bunch of teams blowing out FCS teams.
Yeah, I mean-
Ross College and Duquesne.
Yeah, Utah. What's about Utah, real quick? I mean, it's the one 23-12. I think that's a
It
little.
was closer
It's
than.
no, it's a little skewed. It was below. They were beating their ass and let them score 12.
Was it?
Yes. So I think
yeah,
people.
I see.
So I think people are going to look at that and be like, "Wow, Utah in a slugfest." No, I think Utah scored like 21 points unanswered.
Yeah, they scored 17 in the first quarter, 6 in the second, so they would have scored.
So they scored 23 points to 0.
Yeah.
And they kind of let Baylor come back in
Looks
it.
like, let's see.
The game was always out of
Yeah,
hand.
touchdown, field goal, touchdown, all Utah. And then Baylor scored a field goal with 4 seconds remaining at halftime, a field goal midway through the third, and then another touchdown at the very end of the third.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, it was just Utah was always in control of the game. I would skip past that. That's not anything to talk about. Miami blowing out a shitty FAMU team. Missouri winning 38-0.
Oh, you skipped over a big one. FIU debuts the Pitbull Stadium.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Fucking dollar.
3.5 point.
Blows out.
They're 3.5 point
Central
dog.
Michigan, who was started as a 6.5 point favorite, went down to 3.5 because they knew Pitbull Field would be a terrifying place to play.
Jesus Christ.
And these fucking Panthers came out and whooped them bitches.
That being said, is this score right? Did Alabama win 42-16?
Yeah, so it got another stupid skewed game because we were staying and watching it. We kind of left.
I was about to
after
say
it was
it.
guaranteed. Yeah, very end of the game. Alabama scored with 5 minutes, 57
They
seconds
scored
left,
20.
16-28.
Yeah.
That's when we turned it off and left. We knew the game was over.
5 minutes left. It was a
2
game.
minutes, 41 seconds left. Jam Miller rushed for a 56-yard touchdown. 1 minute, 47 seconds left. Justice Hayes rushed for a 29-yard touchdown.
This is where it pisses me off, where the people that rank games just look at the score. They're like,
Yeah,
oh,
they didn't see the final score.
42-16.
Like, oh, it was a blowout. No, Alabama, we saw you. We
US
saw you struggle.
USF is their absolute kryptonite.
USF almost beat you down in your home fucking stadium.
Yeah, and I if you're a big football fan or if you're an Alabama fan, I recommend you go and you watch. I found today the Snaps, which is run by Aaron Murray. It's a show on YouTube. He does a breakdown of Jalen Milroe. Did he regress? A lot of it wasn't Milroe's fault. I'm gonna take it back. I said Milroe was playing really bad. The offensive line was the worst offensive line performance by an Alabama football team I've ever seen, Mike. This man was hit every time he threw the ball. And if he's not a mobile quarterback, they had to give up like 10 sacks. It was bad. I recommend you go watch it too. It was one of the worst performances from an offensive line I've ever seen, especially at this high of a level. That being said, I still think they go and they beat the shit out of Wisconsin, but if they don't fix offensive line play when Georgia comes into town, it's going to be a massacre.
Yeah.
It is going to be a massacre. Let's move on. Florida, Lagway actually played pretty well. He made a lot of throws where I was like, wow. Puts Napier in a weird situation, but I don't see how you can't start Graham Mertz.
Yeah, I've been seeing the fan base go back and forth the entire time because my thing is, unless you're scared that Lagway will transfer, right? Well, I don't see a point in playing him. Keep this as a redshirt year so you can still have 4 years for the future.
But the problem is you're looking at it from a coach that has years, talking about years for the future. This is a coach fighting for his job.
I'm not giving Billy Napier the option. As the athletic director, I'm making the decision.
Well, that's not possible. They're not going to do that. And Billy Napier has all the power. That's not realistic. If he wants to start Lagway to save his job, he's going to start Lagway.
The only reason he would start Lagway is to try to save his job because he gives something that Graham Mertz might not.
He gives the ability to have some legs and extend plays because your offense is so piss poor.
Mm-hmm.
So
and even then, even if they do start him, I don't see him winning enough games for them to do this. Like this is still a true
schedule's too
QB
hard.
Talking about.
Schedule's too hard. But that being said, as much as I think Graham Mertz is a great quarterback, I think he's a really good quarterback.
I don't think he's bad.
But that being said, Mike, if they go out this week against a stout Texas A&M defense and it's like a 7-10 game going to the third quarter, Texas A&M's got a 3-point lead. I could see Lagway coming in to try to light the offense up.
Earlier today, they were talking about potentially using the 2 QB system.
And I think that once you do that,
back a couple years ago with the previous coach when it was Anthony Richardson and who was the other quarterback at that time? It wasn't Trask.
It was Emory Jones.
Emory Jones.
That was Napier. That was Napier in his first year.
That was Napier?
Yes.
I thought that was the other coach.
Nope, Napier. This is third year for Napier. This is third season for Billy Napier.
Yeah, I thought Anthony Richardson and Emory Jones was
no, Graham Mertz first season last year. Remember how everyone was saying Anthony Richardson? Oh, he's right. It was Dan Mullen's last year. Yeah.
And it's what
that was when AR was a true freshman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were going back and forth between those two, but the issue is when you're using a 2 QB system. One, it's hardly ever worked in any actual way at any level of football.
Yes.
But if you do it, you need 2 very different style of quarterbacks, so that way the defense has to actually adjust. Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson were both mobile quarterbacks, had very similar skill sets. Anthony Richardson was probably just more dynamic.
I think, but I see when he was doing that, I think he knew his team was going to be bad, and it was more of trying to get AR some playing time. Yeah. But in this situation, I think by him,
2 very different style of quarterbacks.
But see, I don't think they can come in and play because it's different. It's like when Tim Tebow was there back in the day, they brought him in because he's a big running game guy. Mm-hmm. Lagway's not a downhill running game guy.
No, he's mobile, but
he's mobile to extend plays. No, he's a passer.
Yeah, I think he's sent more closely, like how we've seen recently in Miami versus Florida. I think he's more similar to Cam Ward's style of play.
I honestly think he's
more unpolished. I think he's
less flashy. I think he's honestly more like a Nico from Tennessee, big fucking cannon arm, very accurate on deep balls. But sometimes maybe a little too aggressive on shorter routes. Yeah. Throwing them too hot.
Okay, I like that.
But I think that's my thing, though. I think by him even saying there could be a 2 quarterback system is just him opening up his coaching staff to saying, okay, if the offense gets stagnant, we're putting in Lagway.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to go is start Mertz, keep Mertz. And if you can't get the offense going, then put in this guy for the shot.
Yep.
But I think the best thing for the team in the long run is to keep DJ Lagway with his red shirt, let him develop properly, give him some playing time for sure in areas, but give him his red shirt so that way you still have 4 potential years to still use him if he doesn't leave early for the draft. Because right now, all I'm seeing on a lot of things from On3 and some of the other recruiting sites is if Billy Napier can't get it done, he gets fired, Lagway is a very big target for a lot of other schools to try to target.
Yeah, he would probably wait to see who comes in because of the buzz right now of the
like,
Lane
I'm not
Kiffin
saying
shit.
he's a absolute, like, he's going to transfer, but he's going to be a transfer target on a lot of schools' boards.
Yep.
They are going to be talking to him and try to get him to put his name in that portal.
Yep. Let's go all the way down because we're running low on time. Let's go all the way down to Tennessee, North Carolina State. Briefly touch about it. Tennessee looks like one of the best teams in the country right now.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
saying,
dominant.
like, they dominated both sides of the ball defensively. I talked about it in the offseason. Defensively, they got much improved. This is probably the best defense Tennessee's had under Heupel. That has proven correct. I said Nico is a head and shoulders better quarterback than the boy who just got drafted, who's a fucking chump.
Yeah.
That is proven. He makes great passes. He makes great decisions. The defense is suffocating. So I'm really excited to see them going forward, especially playing teams like Alabama and Georgia. They have Georgia on the road. So interesting to watch. Finally, I talked about it all week. This game is skewed. Nebraska was down 28-0. I think, up 28-0. I think this is the crumbling point for this Colorado bullshit, and I can't wait for it to be over. Deion Sanders made a lot of questionable coaching decisions, I think, during the game, especially towards the half. They were driving the ball. They had 3 timeouts. He used 1 timeout with like 15 seconds left. I was like, dude, you could have been using these timeouts for a while. Shedeur Sanders is a piece of shit. I'll go ahead and say that.
Yeah, his whole post
yes.
game conference going in and
first off,
the
leaving.
first thing that comes out of your mouth is
Hold on, before we even get to that point, because that's gonna piss me off. There was 2 minutes and 50 seconds left in this game. You're down by 18. He went to the locker room. They put in the backup quarterback.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not see that.
Well, look it up. Backup quarterback finished the game with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. He just quit. He just got escorted to the locker room. Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan Staub got 2 pass attempts in there.
Yeah, 2 minutes and 50 seconds left.
3 carries for.
Isn't that insane?
This is what I mean.
Who's gonna draft this
NFL,
motherfucker?
like, I've seen a lot of dudes like calling for Shedeur to come be the Giants' new quarterback because we need a new quarterback. I don't want him.
The difference is
He is talented as all hell. He is extremely gifted and talented at the game of football. I do not want this locker room cancer
he's a cancer. Yeah.
in my team.
Yep.
Let alone him leaving the game during that. You never fucking do that as a player unless you're fucking hurt. You do not leave to go to the fucking locker room. But then the post-conference speech, the first thing you do is just
blame the
talk
offensive
about the
line.
other quarterback like, hey, how many times did Raiola get touched? How many times did he get hit? None? Oh, that's weird. I was on my back the entire time. Like, yeah, granted, not a wrong statement. It's a very true statement. But you discuss that inside with your team.
Yeah.
That is a conversation you have with your offensive line.
He has no accountability.
With your coaching, and you guys figure that out inside.
He has no accountability.
Bashing your O-line, and you're an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
How would you feel if your quarterback went out and just...
I'm going to tell you right now, I thought
You're
about
not
it.
blocking for him.
I've thought about it since I saw it yesterday morning. I honestly would debate transferring.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly would be like, you know what? I'll just hang it up this season and not play the rest of the year. That'll count as a red shirt for me. We're only game 2, and I'll transfer. Yeah. I'm dead serious. I would not play for a motherfucker like that. Not to mention, when he didn't play great, he threw fucking 2 interceptions, 1 for a pick 6 on the goal line, and he cannot convince me and say that was the offensive line's fault. Bro, that was a 1-2 throw the hitch. You didn't even see the safety coming. He picked 6 your ass. Yeah. So, he has no accountability. He's not a leader. They have an L on his jersey. That's for loser. It's not for fucking leader. Okay? Yeah. Because a leader doesn't go and quit on his team and go to the locker room with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. And I don't care what his fucking dad says or what the media says. There's a big difference between people debating a first-round pick last year that plays for the Bears.
Caleb Williams.
There's a difference between people saying Caleb Williams maybe has character issues and feels like he should be having more things like the contract and stakes in the team. And there's a big difference between that and quitting on your team and going to the press conference and shitting on your team.
Yeah.
NFL scouts will not draft you for shit like that. I'm dead serious. They'll go, you know what? We were going to draft you, but we'll pick up Cam Ward. Or you know what? We were going to draft you, but we're going to pick up Carson Beck.
Yeah.
They will overlook you for shit like that.
You will fall.
Yes.
Because especially as the quarterback. Like, you can have character issues if you're like an edge rusher, maybe a wide receiver, someone who doesn't necessarily have to be a leader in the locker room, but you can benefit off skill alone. As a quarterback, a leader is a significant part of your fucking skill set. If you can't be a leader and take accountability and fuck it, even take the fall when it's not your fucking fault, you're not going to be anything in the next level.
Yep. I agree. I just think it's, again, I'm so happy that this happened to them, though, because it needed to happen. But, yeah, I mean, here we go. I think this is the collapse because I think you're seeing his mentality. You see just, honestly, the one that has the best character out of all them was Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter got his ass reamed a couple times coming to the sideline. Yeah. I saw some stupid-ass ESPN reporters say watch Travis Hunter attack Coach Sanders.
Was it when he went off to the sideline, got yelled at a little bit, and like threw his helmet down? Like,
no,
he was pissed.
He just like threw his helmet down.
His helmet off,
but he sat there and took the ass chewing and then walking away through his helmet. I'm like, dude,
that to me is him yelling at himself.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, have you never played football before? To me, that's how a player should be. Yeah. You took the hard coaching and you're like, fuck, I fucked up.
Yeah,
right. It's not.
That's accountability.
Yeah, that is totally fine to me, and I don't know how people are like. He literally said, our team's going to overlook him for this because I would. Motherfucker, how are you going to say that?
He stopped,
looked
at Coach in the eyes, got yelled at, took his fucking reaming, and then walked away and then fucking yelled at himself.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, that's how you want a player to be because I personally like players that are throwing helmets, that are pissed off at themselves. Because they expect to be perfect, and those are the best players that are going to be in the league.
Yeah, but they're not too emotional where they can just walk away from Coach or fucking ignore what Coach is trying to tell them.
He's coachable. He's 100% coachable.
I like Travis Hunter. I'm big on him.
Let's go all the way down to Oregon real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably the last game we need to talk
about. Boise State, Gianti, beast. Yeah. Giante's a beast.
And harping it all offseason, we've been talking about him.
I wanted to see him.
This dude is an animal.
I wanted to see him against quality talent. That's what I was saying. This was it. How this guy's not the number one rated running back coming out, I don't know how. Well, I'm saying like after this game.
Oh, yeah.
He's hands down.
Right now, he is the number one running back prospect going into the draft.
Only thing
killed it.
Yeah, only thing I worry with him is, man, I just pray he stays healthy because he runs the ball so much.
Yes. He had 25 carries in this game for 192 yards, 3 touchdowns. I know last week it was like somewhere around 20 carries for like 270 yards and 6 touchdowns.
And there was just a couple key plays. This was the game, I'm sorry. Remember when I was talking about there was a team that scored and immediately took the kickback? It was Oregon. So if you go and you look at their drives, if you look at like ESPN.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. Let's see. Yep, returned punt.
Yeah.
So Dillon Gabriel with 9 minutes left in the third quarter scored a touchdown. They go on defense. Looks like they get a stop about 5 minutes later. Third quarter, 4 minutes left. There was
What's the score?
47 yards. It was 20-20.
Tie game, yep.
Tez Johnson returned punt for 85-yard touchdown.
Yep.
This gave him the lead to go 27-20. Ashton Jeanty ran for a 70-yard touchdown to tie it up. Ashton Jeanty ran for an 8-yard touchdown to take the lead. Boise State kickoff return for 100 yards. Or sorry, not Boise State.
Oregon
kickoff return for 100 yards. Tied at 34-34 with 2 seconds left. Kicked the game-winning field goal.
Yep. So when people talk to me, Mike, and they say, why is special teams so important?
I need to go back and watch this game.
Why is special teams so important? It's this. You scored 2 touchdowns on special teams. Yeah. You would have lost the game. Yeah. But your special teams bailed you out.
Ashton Jeanty would have single-handedly beat you.
Yes.
So you had a punt return and a kick return.
Yes. So Boise State looked to me like hands down the best group of 5 team. They should have won this game, and they should have won it by like 10 points. Yeah. So
I'm glad to see that they're still getting. Granted, they're not ranked. They should be, but they're not.
Still
ranked.
Getting votes.
They're getting votes just outside of it. If they come out this next week and have another dominant performance, they're getting ranked.
Yeah, 100%.
They will probably be the favorites because I know fucking Northern Illinois is currently ranked. We know they're not going to stay there.
No.
Absolute fantastic game for them. They're not going to stay.
Nope.
Boise State will climb the rankings as long as they keep it on this season. They have a good shot at making that group of 5 bid.
Yeah, I mean, if they can make the playoffs, this would probably be one of the best seasons they've had since they beat Oklahoma with the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Like 2008, 2009. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Oregon real quick before we get off the podcast here. Oregon's got to figure shit out. They can't stop the run.
I need to watch this game because, I don't know what's going on.
Offensively, they get a lot of yards, and then they just stall. They can't get points.
Which, just looking at paper, because, again, I didn't watch this game. I need to go back and watch it. I hate how late the game was. I was ready for bed. But Dillon Gabriel had almost a perfect game.
Yep. Personally, Mike, this reminds me so much of when Auburn was making SEC championships and playoffs back in the day with Gus Malzahn, where it's like they would finish a game with like 650 yards of offense and 28 points. That's what Oregon reminds me of. They have 2 defensive touchdowns here. You take those off the board. Look how many points they scored, right? So that's my point. It's like Oregon does this. Electric. They're like, bam, 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 down the field, past the 50, high, other end of the field, like the 40.
Yeah.
And then they go like, run, stuffed, throw, incomplete, punt. That's like watching them play. And it's like, what happens? It's like, I don't know what they do play calling and scheme-wise. It's like they almost start to panic when they get to the other side of the field, especially last game. Last game was really Auburn-like, in my opinion, back in the day. It's like you get down to the red zone, it's like your red zone offense is terrible. You don't have red zone plays. It's like you're going to run your same plays in a condensed field, and it doesn't work. The field gets condensed. The lanes for the quarterback to throw get smaller. Dylan Gabriel's got to run around and try to make a play happen. They can't establish the run, which is shocking, right? In the red zone. I would think that an Oregon team could just run over Boise State to run. Uh-oh, Mike, what do we got here?
Breaking news, Christian McCaffrey's inactive for Monday's game versus Jets.
You got to be shitting me.
I had him in so many fucking bets.
I had him in Prize Picks. He was my last leg. Do they void it?
Probably just.
Void it?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to kill myself.
At least that leg they will.
Wow. Mike, I had him in a Prize Picks, 4 legs to win $100, 20 to 100. All I needed him to do was to score a touchdown. That seems like a lock.
Oh, dude, so you know how I missed out on the triple downs
Yeah.
earlier? I had him for 1 touchdown. I had him for 2 touchdowns. I had him for 3 touchdowns.
Okay, we're gonna end the pod here because I'm pissed off. Okay, we just talked about all the games, and I'm just sitting over here thinking like I'm gonna be $100 richer today. Nope, done.
In an hour.
Done. This is garbage. Now, I mean, that has to sway the spread. You would think it was only a 4-point spread, but we'll see. Thanks, guys, for listening to the. Jesus Christ. Okay, we're gonna put this up. It's gonna get a sad day. It's gonna be a sad night here. Thanks, guys, for listening to the podcast, supporting the podcast. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on YouTube. We've got all sorts of content coming out. We're going to do the NFL recap tomorrow is going to drop for you guys. We didn't want to mash them both together. We want to do separated, have 2 different talking points, obviously, for NFL versus college. We also want to capture the Monday night game. That's why we're going to do it a day late. That being said, later in the week, we're going to mash college and NFL together for our Thursday show. I mean, we'll record Wednesday. It'll drop Thursday for you guys so we can talk about the NFL slate and the college slate so you can get that before the Thursday night games for college and NFL in case you want to bet on it. That being said, y'all, peace.